Welcome to the RTF show, mid-season edition. I am your host, Michael Kier, coming to you live from COVID Central, the ivermectin capital of the world. Trying to keep myself healthy as my wife combats the dreaded COVID virus. I'm just ingesting horse paste constantly. John, brother John, how you doing over there in Portland?
Man, it is COVID's running rampant through the Midwest right now, it would seem. We'll get into that a little bit more later, but it was a wild day in the group chat, lots of news flying around. It's pretty calm over here in Portland. Just moved into a new place. Pretty much all settled, which is great. Looking forward to a couple quiet nights here until I head down to Reno with the Alpha Peter. And we're going to tear Reno up with our buddy Reed. Going to go see Bill Burr. And less than 18 hours after Bill Burr, we are going to see Hamilton. We're hitting the matinee show in Reno.
Very nice. It's going to be a good one, I bet. All right. We will get into a lot of things today. We're going to hand out some Midseason Awards, talk about the state of the league. But before we do all that, we've got to acknowledge the week that was. Week 8, the revenge of the Ditka Division. The Ditka Division went out there and handed it to everybody that they played. It was a complete smackdown, as Peter Kramer might say. And I think one that, throws a bit of a wrench into what the league playoff picture might look like, and maybe even changes the dynamic of, who's selling, who's buying. Last week we had football and stuff, Charlie's team eking out a victory over brother John. Oh, how did that feel?
Oh, it's embarrassing. I think my kicker going -1, Dwelly going 0. It was just it was bad management on my part, and I take full responsibility for that loss. I feel like everyone else went out and played well enough, and that was my fault. So, good for Charlie though. He keeps his playoff hopes alive. His spot right now.
You were not the only, and actually, I think Charlie. I think the playoff things are wrong, right? Because we changed it. It's now total points 4, I believe, isn't it?
Well, you still have to win your division.
Ken and Charlie are tied.
No, but Charlie is 2-0 in the division. So
okay. So the division record is still
the division. It goes overall, then division record, and then total points. But outside any wild card spots, it's total record and then total points. Yes. So.
Okay. You were not the only team that fell flat. Plenty of others, including Brendan. The revenge tour kind of took a bit of a detour this week. Puts up just 80 points, gets demolished by Kelly. Kelly puts up 130, hits the weekly high, unfortunately, in a week when she's not going to win any money for it. But a real nice turnaround for her team. And then on top of that, Portugal the Ken comes in and beats Steve. Puts up 117.
It was huge. It was a huge. At least for me, I didn't lose any ground. I didn't gain any ground on my division mates. That's still in the running, but not a good week for our division looking for wild card spots. I think that's tough.
not at all. You guys took a hard hit in your division this week, and the playoff picture kind of shaking out here. So I think we can safely say there's going to be one playoff team from the Ditka Division, and that'll be whoever wins that division. And then it's going to get pretty tight beyond that, both in terms of who's winning divisions. I mean, all three of the other divisions, there's no real clear lead. I mean, I'm up one game on Josh, but we're pretty close in points for. And the same can be said about Alec and the Alpha Peter. Now, Alec, we're going to get to him in a second. Devastating injury for his team, and might cost him the season. And then really the same though in the Ryan division. Fitz up one game on Steve, and really close in points. Two teams that are really battling hard. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes. It's gonna be interesting coming down the stretch.
Yeah, I do think so. I think it's with the looming trade deadline, I think we are going to see a little bit more of a shakeout, especially after this week. We're going to see what teams really want to make a push here, which we did see some of that earlier this week. We can get into some of the transactions in a bit, but we saw a couple pushes from my division, which doesn't make me feel great, but we'll see about that. And so we're gonna have a very good look at what the playoff picture looks like within.
Let's do a quick Survivor update. We did not have a show last week, and so we will update you on week 7. Week 7, guess who it was?
That's me, which, you know what? Yep. When I actually went back and saw that in the show run, I was like, whoa, what? I hadn't been off the island yet without.
I was surprised as well.
Honestly, the 1 year in another league, I did win Survivor going, I think it was 4-7. So it's not unheard of to have a losing record and win Survivor, but I was shocked I wasn't off the island yet. Anyway, that's me. And then as we get into week 8 here, another good, 80 points isn't terrible from Fitz, but you're getting down to these last few weeks here where 80 points just isn't going to cut it. So Fitz joins me off the island, leaving just, looking at it, it's your top, your top point scorers here. You've got yourself, Decatur Staley's, the Alpha Peter, Alec, and Steve is left. So
it was the Alpha Peter and Alec both came pretty close to getting off there themselves, both putting up 87 points. So it was a tight week. All right. That's your Survivor update. Let's jump real quick to our power rankings. We didn't do an update last week, so this is 2 weeks removed, or skipping ahead a week. Kelly and Charlie holding fast in last place. Big drop though for Sullivan. Sullivan down to 10. Now Ken takes a bump up to 9th place. Bill bumps himself up to 8th place, and then some things start falling out of the top. John falls to 7. Alec bounces from 4 to 2. From 4 to 6. Brendan down from 2 to 5. The Alpha Peters from 1 to 4. Steve holding strong at 3. Josh and I both moving up 5 spots. Josh installing him in the 2nd spot, myself in the 1st spot. John, reactions to these rankings? Any surprises? Anything you think doesn't make sense?
No, I mean, with Alex's unfortunate fall there with the king going down, that
Yep.
makes sense. I think we're going to see a lot of jockeying for position over the next couple weeks between you, Josh, Steve, Peter, and Brendan. Brendan at 5. He made a move earlier this week. I think we're going to see Brendan in the mix quite a bit there. 5 is a tough spot to be at the moment, but I don't think he's going to stay there for long. And so, really, you've got 2 divisions that are dominating as far as the top 2 players, and then you've got the Alpha Peter, who, it's the same team as last year, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him try to make some moves to get some people away from the lower half of the division, the lower half of the standings, and make another run for back-to-back. I can't count out him. So
I agree. I think the top 5 teams in the league, and unfortunately for Alec, it is a top 5 no longer. I don't think losing Henry is going to be a huge blow, and I'm not sure how you recover from that unless you're willing to make push all the chips in. Maybe you make a move for somebody like Dalvin Cook if Kelly's willing to sell and mortgage next year. See what you can do. But Dalvin Cook's on a 3-year contract. That's pretty expensive. So
was Henry
he's got Henry.
no?
Yeah, Henry's on a 3-year contract. It's pretty expensive.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough to convince Kelly to make even just make a 1-to-1 swap with maybe some draft capital in there, but that's gonna be hard. Although Henry's injury, he in theory could be back before the end of the regular season. Doesn't have a history of injury issues, so I mean, that's compelling, and I think you may have come up with a pretty interesting solution there. So
we'll see
if Alec takes that bait.
All right, waiver wire. All right, let's get to the waiver wire. Yeah. So
waiver wire, it's the waiver wire. Trying things out.
Yeah. Okay. Few things that happened this week. So actually, before we get to the waiver wire, let's hit the trade. So couple trades actually this week, but let's hit those 2. So Amari Cooper traded to the Bomboleros Revenge, and Steve taking on Eli Mitchell. What do you think of those reactions to those?
Yeah, so let's start with Kelly sending Amari Cooper to Fitz for a very promising prospect in Randall Moore and $9 in draft capital for 2022, which, we saw last year a flurry of money being thrown around in the same range, right? Some high-profile guys in that $5-10 range of draft capital, and so I think Kelly made out pretty great here with $9 in draft capital for the following year. And then she turns around and sells Mitchell, who, we had Mitchell involved in a trade earlier with Deebo Samuel for $6 extra, and Sutton, who could be an interesting piece if she's looking to keep him as well. So she makes out with $15 for 2022 draft capital already, and that's not including maybe some moves that she can make later. I think Cooper, who's still dealing with that rib injury, or hamstring injury. It's a hamstring injury. Hasn't been as productive, but he's had a good week last week, and so hopefully that means he's getting back to full health, which, if he is, then great move. And then Mitchell, it's hard to say in the backfield, but Mitchell is clearly the best running back right now for the Niners, and they're leaning on him heavily. And maybe Jefferson comes back in a week or two, maybe not. It's hard to say. But I think Mitchell's clearly got the backfield until Wilson comes back. So
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think this is a good move for both Steve and Kelly. You know, Steve picking up some running back depth for $6. $6 not breaking the bank, and I think it's about the right price for Mitchell. Given the instability in San Francisco's backfield, given the fact that Mitchell has already missed time this year with an injury, is banged up a little bit again in practice today. I think that's about right for a guy that's going to give you hopefully some promising depth.
Yeah, and for Steve right now at 4-4, he needs wins. If he wants to move into that 5 spot, 6 spot, and then challenge Fitz for the division, I mean, he can't drop 2 of the next 3. And so I think going out and getting Mitchell while he is still the primary back there and they're not being competition, will go a long way for that. And
for sure.
And Sutton is not going to get him wins with Judy coming back and the mess that is that quarterback situation. So yeah, really great move on both parts, and sets kind of the bar for people looking to buy and people looking to sell off some of their players. Whether that be myself, Bill, or Sullivan. So
yeah, the other one, the Amari Cooper trade, I have similar feelings about that. Amari Cooper has never been a wide receiver I've necessarily loved, but he's in a potent offense that he's going to score in, and seems to have proven that. And then from Kelly's point of view, Rondale Moore hasn't done much this season, but he certainly showed that he can do something. And young wide receivers, I mean,
that's what we want.
Not all wide receivers are going to bust out of the gate like Jamar Chase and a guy that we'll talk about later, and Justin Jefferson. It's a lot of the time it is that there was always the year 3 wide receiver list that you'd always see in fantasy, and there's a reason for that, right? Usually takes a couple of years for guys to develop route running skills, to develop into a professional grade wide receiver. So I like this move. Maybe he continues to develop this year. Could be something, someone worth keeping. He's a minimum guy. He was, added for $1 off the waiver wire. So it's worth a shot in the dark, I think.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I mean, looking at that situation, young quarterback and Kyler Murray, AJ Green, pretty serviceable this year, but out with COVID now. So you'll see more of Moore. And then, DeAndre Hopkins, still a great receiver, has not been all that great for fantasy based on his draft or auction price. And so, if you're looking to the future, someone who's learning under Hopkins and AJ Green and has the talent of Kyler Murray throwing to him, that is a pretty good prospect to pick up. So I think well done by Kelly to get that. And, looks like Fitz and Steve are in win now mode and are looking to make that push, which scares the shit out of me. So
let's move forward to the waiver wire. 3 pickups, I guess I want to highlight. The first one, Bill snags Boston Scott to fill the Miles Sanders void that exists out there. But
what a weird thing that was.
Which one?
You get Kenneth Gainwell, apparently,
Yeah.
seems to be the heir apparent. And then you've got Boston Scott putting in 2 touchdowns, Jordan Howard putting in 2 touchdowns, and Gainwell getting nothing.
Yeah, pretty bizarre. Bill went all in on Boston Scott, $15 there. It's fine. I don't think Boston Scott's going to turn around Bill's season. That Philly team is a fucking nightmare, and they're a nightmare. The other ones that came through, Jeremy Nichols gets picked up by Josh for $10. Nobody else bid on him.
Yeah. It's an interesting.
I'm like, what happened there? Alex got money to burn, doesn't he? Am I wrong about that?
No, he does. He has, I think, $80.
He's got $90.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have expected.
Why are we not picking up Jeremy McNichols?
Yep. Yeah, I agree completely.
I didn't get it. I don't get it. So
and looking at Alex's team, McNichols could be a starter. Like,
yeah.
Like, you're not plugging in. There's really, like, looking at his situation right now. He's got Josh Jacobs and Devin Singletary. I would put in McNichols over Singletary easily.
Yeah.
And then looking at the rest of his team, Peyton
Harper's
not getting
Bernard.
Yeah.
All he's got is Giovanni Bernard.
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah. Maybe he's got a huge bid in for Adrian Peterson, who runs similar to
I don't know
to Henry, but he's like 36. So I do think also that offense is changing, and I think you're going to see Ryan Tannehill throwing 35 times.
I don't know. I feel like at this point, Adrian Peterson's running closer to you and I than he is to Derrick Henry. That dude's old. Yep. That's coming as somebody who's the same age. He's old.
Yeah.
All right. So the only other one I wanted to just mention real quickly was the Taysom Hill. Peter gets him for $10. I don't have any money. I put in $2 just because I'm going to need a quarterback for a bye week and eventually. And Taysom seems like a guy that I think is going to get, I think he's going to get his points. And
he's still dealing with concussion issue, isn't he?
Is he still in concussion
protocol?
protocol?
I thought they were. I thought that they were starting. Simon.
He's on schedule. I don't know what that means.
I thought, aren't they? They're starting Trevor Siemian, I thought, this week.
Oh, are they really? Well, I guess we'll see.
He's an interesting pickup. He could be. Yeah. Peter. I get why Peter went out for that guy. I would have rather have gone. I would have expected Peter to go after someone like Tua, who's had a couple great games since coming back from injury. But he's got to be concerned that Kyler Murray could take a hit and actually be out for a little while, or they get down to the point where they can rest him towards fantasy playoffs if they've already clinched. And then I know he was trying to get Tom Brady off of Charlie for a while, and that has not come to fruition.
Well, it's not going to now. So let's use that as a transition point into some news from the week. Big news coming out today, and I want to move through this fairly quickly, just because we've talked about it a lot in the chat today.
Secret chat.
So, a couple things happening. Aaron Rodgers apparently lied about his vaccination status and now has COVID. Fuck
Yeah.
that guy.
Yeah. I mean, wow. I thought Green Bay said that they were 100% vaccinated, but maybe not.
You know, I have no sympathy for Aaron Rodgers. I don't wish him ill. I hope he, gets better. But fuck that guy. What a piece of shit.
I know.
If you're not going to get vaccinated, fine. But like, don't fucking lie about it.
Yeah.
Don't go around telling people that you are and not wearing a mask and acting like a fucking dickhead. And endangering people's lives. It's awful.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It's terrible. And one thing I saw online, I was reading some comments, and it was just like, yeah, Aaron Rodgers believes aliens fucking built pyramids, et cetera, et cetera. He's kind of an out there dude, very hippie-ish, likes to take a lot of hallucinogens, et cetera, kind of out there guy. So is Tom Brady. Tom Brady has all that weird shit too, right? Kisses kids on the mouth, the concussion water, TB12 of diet, all that stuff, right? He believes in some sunburn water.
Okay.
But you know what? Tom Brady, who probably also doesn't believe in vaccines, he believes in fucking winning more than anything, and he got the fucking vaccine because of it.
Did he? Did he? Are we sure?
Yeah.
Are we sure?
Tampa Bay Bucks did say they're 100% vaccinated. I think Bruce Arians is no fucking around. But you know what? It's kind of fucked up. You would think Aaron Rodgers, you want to win this season, you want to get your Super Bowl, there's nothing you could do better than getting the vaccine. To put yourself in a position to win when it comes to medical, et cetera, competition. So it seems insane that he didn't get the vaccine. Does he actually want to win? I don't think so.
Unbelievably, Aaron Rodgers is only the second biggest piece of shit in the NFL, apparently. As the Henry Ruggs news dropped, after Henry Ruggs really having a season where he was kind of coming on, had a few huge games, and looked like he might start to be becoming the receiver that a lot of people think had hoped he would become. Last year, that's not going to happen. That guy's never going to play football again. In fact, he's probably, he's already in jail, but he's probably going to be spending the next couple of years at least in prison. So, Ruggs killing somebody driving 150 miles an hour while intoxicated at 3:00 in the morning on a goddamn Tuesday, doing God knows what with a gun in the car, no less. He was
loaded, yeah. Yeah, apparently he was at Topgolf earlier in the evening, based on photos posted, on his Instagram or whatever.
What a great endorsement for Topgolf.
Yeah, I'm sure they're loving it. That there's photos of him golfing with drinks on the table. I am sure that this is wonderful.
Sure they
publicity.
Do people, generally come to Topgolf strapped? Is that you want to bring your gun to Topgolf?
Yeah, maybe
you never know when Shooter McGavin's going to show up and you need to defend yourself or some shit. All right. Let's move on. Couple other notes from today. Barkley tests positive for COVID. Saquon's out at least this week with COVID. That's tough. AJ Green tests positive for COVID. He's going to be in health and safety protocols. And then my least favorite player, America's least favorite player, Michael Thomas, essentially gets shut down for the season.
He's shut himself down.
Yeah.
He said there was a minor setback, and then he just decided to post, "I'm done for the season." What an asshole. He got this injury last season. he could have gotten the surgery right after the season ended in like January last year.
Yeah.
Instead, he waits till July to get the surgery.
Well,
What an asshole!
That's the Shaquille O'Neal move.
It's
You know.
the Scottie Pippen. I want to enjoy my summer. I want to enjoy my off season.
Oh yeah, Pippen did that. Yeah, O'Neal was famous, right, for getting his surgery done on company time instead of during the off season. Isn't that what him and Kobe, the big rift, was all about?
Yeah.
All right, so let's move into our next segment here. We'll spend a little bit of time here. We're gonna do some midseason awards. Hand out some midseason awards to folks. Pull the screen back up. And I guess the way we're going to do this, I went through, we've got six categories. Some of them really only have one nominee that I've put forth, but John, if you've got another one you put forth, let me know. Some have 3 or 4 nominees, and some, have just a couple. I'm gonna tell you the nominees, and then we can each kind of pick which one, which thing we think deserves the award. Does that sound good?
That sounds great. Yeah.
All right. So let's start with something. Let's start with bad. How about we go bad? Worst auction value on the season. Your nominees for the worst auction value for this season. And I have the auction results right here. Number 1, Allen Robinson by Alec. Allen Robinson was picked up for $31. And has been god awful, though through some fault of his own, also through the fault of Matt Nagy and the entire Bears organization.
Bad.
Number 2, Miles Sanders, $26, out for the season now. However, it's no secret that Miles Sanders was an enormous letdown before his injury this past week. And at $26 did not live up to the billing. Trying to keep guys that are injured off this list, by the way. And then the third nominee for this award it's got to be Trey Sermon. $18 I spent on Trey Sermon. Hasn't played a lick of football for me this year, and barely played any for the actual football team that he plays for, the San Francisco 49ers. So, John, what's your award for worst auction value of the season?
Let's see here. I'm gonna have to give the wilted rose to Alec Loesch for Allen Robinson at $31. Not good at all.
No.
I mean, even having Andy Dalton as your quarterback coming into the season, Alec is deeply, intimately aware of who the head coach of this team is, and he should have known better to avoid all but David Montgomery Bears players.
Agreed. So I do agree about that assessment of Alec. I have to be hard on myself and give it to me. Trey Sermon, a rookie running back that was drafted into. I know it was the 3rd round pick, but it drafted into the most crowded backfield in football, and with a coach that is notorious for swapping out running backs. And I found myself in a bidding war that I couldn't say no to, and bid $18. So I'm going to give that one my vote for that one to myself. All right, let's go to something good. Best auction value. Cooper Kupp Cooper Cup, $19 by Kelly. Sorry, $18. Not by Kelly. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say,
Sorry,
I
Brenda.
do not think
Sorry,
Kelly had
I'm looking. I wrote the wrong name down on the sheet.
Yeah.
Cooper Cup, $18 by Brendan. Jamar Chase, I believe $6 from Steve. Jamar Chase.
Stone Hands Chase.
We're going to throw Kareem Hunt out there. Early was doing great before he went down and has been out for quite some time.
$9, yeah.
Kareem Hunt picked up by Mr. Sullivan for, what was it?
I thought it was $9, but
No.
$14.
$14. There we go.
Great deal until he got injured.
Until he got injured. I'm going to give the last one to myself. Might be controversial here. Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman, $8, and to me, and I think has proven himself to be a stud in Indianapolis. So, John, who's your pick there for best auction value?
It's got to be Cooper Cup. I mean, I think going into the season, everyone had it pegged as Robert Woods' wide receiver core. That this was his year to really break out, go above his, very high floor. But Cooper Cup and Matt Sever just seem to have that connection. And I don't think it's going to slow down at all. The way Cup runs those routes, it's so crisp, so clean, and they just seem to have that connection. And so he's going to finish a top 3 wide receiver. And for that value, it's unbelievable. I think runner-up, obviously, Jamar Chase. No one had that sort of foresight. I think Steve going out and getting him for 6 is incredible value. And I think, it's hard to say. That could be it. I mean, Steve getting Chase for $6 is also incredible. But I think the way Cup is playing, the way his consistency has been throughout the season is incredible. So it's going to be tough to beat.
So Cup is not only. I mean, I think he's number 1 overall. He might be just behind Tom Brady in terms of fantasy points right now. So it's hard to beat, but I'm gonna go with Michael Pittman. I'm just kidding. I'm going to go with Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, we're a keeper league, a contract league, and you can't beat a guy like Jamar Chase, who Steve is going to be able to sign to a minimum contract, another wide receiver that he's going to be able to put on his team and sign to a minimum contract. And I think it's huge for him. So I'm very jealous, and I think Jamar Chase has got to be.
Who's his other?
His other one, I was thinking of Ken's team. His other one was Tyler Lockett, who I think Tyler Lockett he was able to get for.
I think it was a 1-year deal.
$18.
I'm pretty sure it's a 1-year deal. So.
Yeah, I think you're right. But Jamar Chase, you would imagine you lock him up for 3 years at $11. Dude's been unreal.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yep,
it's insane.
Yeah. I mean, he's also got Kadarius Toney sitting there, who, I mean, has shown flashes of brilliance as well. And if Toney continues the way he is and maybe gets more consistency, stays healthy, Chase and Toney as a wide receiver combo is going to be lethal for 3 years.
I think the worry with Toney, right? Tony's pretty small. And so he appears to have a bad habit of getting banged up pretty easily. Even this past game, he I don't know what happened, but he like split his thumb open somehow.
He got stepped on. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just, I don't know. That's what worries me about Tony is that he's going to have a hard time staying on the field consistently as he has during his rookie season.
Yeah. But boy, Jamar Chase, what a pick.
Yeah. Agreed.
Most people avoided him after that preseason. Incredible.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All
incredible.
right. Next one. I'm going to call this the John Rose Award for best waiver wire pickup.
Waiver wire. It's the waiver wire.
It'll get better. I only came up with 2 nominees here. I'm sure there were more, but I thought there was one clear winner, and it's going to feed into a pattern of these next 3 awards are heavily featured this manager. But best waiver wire pickup, 2. I've got 2. One, Cordero Patterson. Josh picked him up off the waiver wire for $1 in September. Just an unbelievable value for Josh. Cordero Patterson churning out double-digit fantasy weeks all season long. Took over that backfield from Mike Davis and really just never gave it back, and has essentially made Mike Davis irrelevant in terms of fantasy. It's pretty incredible what Cordero Patterson, a guy that for how old is this motherfucker now? I mean, how old is Cordero Patterson? It feels like he's been in the league forever.
Look, it's clearly a mirage. If the offensive genius, Matt Nagy, couldn't make it work, then clearly it's not going to last.
Yep. This dude's 30 years old. 30 years old. He's been in the league since 2013. He had a couple like good-ish years on the as like a gadget guy, but like for the most part, all he's done is return kicks, and he's done that well up until this year when he's posting. I'm trying to look at the numbers. So his rushing attempts for Atlanta, 64 attempts. He's got about 260, 70 yards. Okay. His receiving attempts for Atlanta, or his receptions for Atlanta, he's caught 31 balls already for 333 yards, which isn't quite at his season. It's well more than halfway to his career high at this point. And we're only 7 games into the season. But perhaps the thing that is most outstanding, he's got 7 touchdowns on the season. 7 touchdowns on the season. That's 5 receiving touchdowns already this season. He never had more than 5 in a season in his entire career before this.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, there's some sort of disconnect there. I mean, it's pretty impressive that the Atlanta's figured out how to use them to this point successfully. I mean, some of these things that we've seen, some of these screens out of the backfield, some of the running that he's been doing are things that coaches have tried in the past, but for some reason it's been so successful there in Atlanta. And that's without even like Julio Jones drawing some of the defense away. It's really been incredible. So
and really without Calvin Ridley doing much either.
Yeah, Calvin Ridley hasn't done shit. And now
I guess we missed that Calvin Ridley news because we were out last week, but Calvin Ridley essentially retired. Which sucks.
Yeah, it's interesting. It was pretty vague. Even the coach this week said he's not sure whether Ridley will play this week, next week. or the rest of the season. I mean, stepping
I mean,
away does not mean retiring, but we'll
we
see.
shall see. All right.
But,
Uh,
just so everyone knows, there is a clause in the Constitution if someone does retire
yes.
while under contract. There's a provision for that. So
Yes, there is.
that was contemplated.
I don't even know if I mentioned. I don't even know if I mentioned the other waiver wire pickup. I think it was Marquise Brown was the other guy that I had targeted. Alec picked him up for $1. He was drafted, but he was dropped by Steve. Alec picked him up for $1. He's been great for Alec, but I think it's clear who the waiver wire winner is.
Yeah, but I do have another. I have one other.
Yeah, give it to me. Hit me with
Rob
it.
Gronkowski is a great $13 by the Alpha Peter. Gronk putting up 2 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks, looking pretty good, and then getting injured. So I think that early pickup there was pretty great for Peter, and I think got him a couple of good wins. But we'll see. I mean, he's held on to him, so if we can get him healthy, although he did exit again with another injury. So just wanted to call out. He went out and got him for $13, but obviously Cordell Patterson is, oh my God, what a pickup.
Yeah.
Top 5 running back. Wonderful. So.
All right. Next category, best trade. So, the ones recently, I didn't put into this because I think they were a different type of trade than I was considering when I was looking back over the season of trades. Because the ones recently, the Rondale Moore, Cooper Kupp trade, the Mitchell Sutton trade, those were a team selling and a team buying versus 2 teams trying to both get better in the season. And we didn't have a ton of movement in terms of that, but the one that stood out to me, and I think there's an argument to be made for a couple different for one other one, but the one that stood out to me as the trade that kind of shifted things the most this season was the Debo for Mitchell trade.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Debo has been incredible, and Mitchell took a while to get going.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think if you
clear, go ahead.
Well, okay, so I think if you look at the Debo for Mitchell trade, Kelly's season turned at that point. I mean, she trades Mitchell she trades for Mitchell after a great week 1 by Mitchell. Puts up 100 yards, 1 touchdown, 18 points. Really just a brilliant week 1, and gets injured in week 2, and from there, is out the next 2 weeks, and it really put Kelly in a huge hole that was going to make it difficult for her to climb out of. Yep. On the other side of that trade, for Josh, takes on Debo, and I think at the time, my reaction would have been, wow, he's really buying high on Debo. You're trading away a guy that looks to be the clear RB1 in in an offense that's generally been a very good running offense for Debo, who, had a game that will likely be an outlier for the rest of the season, where he puts up almost 200 yards and a touchdown and gets you 30 points. That seems kind of nuts. And for the next 2 weeks, I think it kind of looked a little nuts, despite, Mitchell having gotten hurt. But Debo's really just been incredible this year, and it's buoyed Josh's team.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, Debo, man, what a man. He has been incredible the last last 3 weeks surrounding their bye week. I would say the other trade that, that I would have highlighted would be, I believe it's the first trade of the season. And this again involves Josh, and he comes out with a king's ransom. Well, what's looking like it, I think Herbert early was great. Herbert's had a few bad weeks recently, but he makes that trade and Herbert goes on a tear, 30, 21, 43 points. And then AJ Brown, as soon as Justin Herbert starts to cool down, AJ Brown is now picking it up. And so I think Herbert will find his way again, but Herbert and AJ Brown for Travis Kelce, when he had Josh is one with Kyle Pitts, right? Kyle Pitts coming on. I think great moves overall by Josh. He has won every trade. Not to say Brendan lost there, getting Travis Kelce, but Josh certainly won. So they may have both won, but I think either one of those I would have called out. And Josh is coming out ahead on both those. So I think you have to give best trade to Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I think that trade it turned into it turned into AJ for Kelce. And I've been trying to click on Kelce, but it won't let me bring anything up here. I don't know why. And Kelce, Kelce is not having the year that obviously Brendan had hoped Kelce was going to be having.
Well, he started off so hot. I mean, 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns in the first week, 1 touchdown the second week, and then only 1 touchdown since. And so 4 on the season for Kelce is not going to get you the value that you, that you paid up for. So,
but I think, at this point, Fitz is 5-3. He is sitting in a good position to make the playoffs, and he's done all this with a Travis Kelce that has vastly underperformed on a Chiefs offense that's vastly underperformed. And so for him, the idea has got to be like, if Kelce gets it going, I might have the best team in the league.
Oh, easily. Looking at the rest of Fitz's trade, which I think would be the other person to call out here, and they're both the more active traders. He went out and got Matt Stafford, who's looked incredible. And then, he did trade for Julio Jones, which if Julio Jones does, gave away DJ Moore, who's now had a couple down weeks. And so I don't think it's really hurt Fitz as much as it may have. But Julio Jones gets healthy, you could see the Titans throwing a ton. And as AJ Brown gets going, which he has, that's going to open up a lot of space for Julio. So in theory, we could see El Bombolero's revenge really starting to take hold here down the stretch. And so I think I just convinced myself to sell this year.
The other thing that I like about Fitz's team, or another move of Fitz's that I do like, was turning, looking back at this, turning Tyson Williams and Ben Roethlisberger into Matt Stafford.
Unreal.
Is a real fleecing of Alec. Alec has Pat Mahomes, I believe. And so, Matt Stafford wasn't going to do much for him, but Stafford on, leading the way on the best offense in football, really. Hard to believe that's the return for a guy.
Tyson Williams had I think a pretty good first week, right?
Well, yeah,
First,
I mean, he was
pretty good first game, and then
yes,
yeah.
it's
So same
yeah,
thing there with as like what happened with Kelly. I mean, you buy into this, understanding of who the lead back is, and then
yep.
poof.
Well, I mean, Alec isn't the only guy that got burned by the Baltimore backfield this year.
Hey, Bill.
All right. That leads us to, I think, what's going to be our final award of the night. And there's 12 candidates for this award. They're all in the league. They all had an equal opportunity in order to receive it. This award is the Manager of the Year so far. Which that so far obviously is these are mid-season awards. So the mid-season Manager of the Year.
So does he get like he or she does get like a half dozen roses or something?
Yeah, they will be sent a half dozen like chocolate roses, not real roses. Mostly because they look pretty far away from. Well, no, actually, not too far away from you. Well, actually, they look pretty close to me because the Manager of the Year so far is your number one team in the league, Michael Rose, the dictator. It's true.
What do you like, the executive producer of Jeopardy? And
yep.
I am the new
myself
host.
in that spot. No, I'm just kidding. The Manager of the Year, I think thus far, the person that I picked, and John, you had another nominee that we can talk about for a second. But I picked Josh. I think Josh's team has really he's overcome quite a bit this year. Christian McCaffrey goes down as he is wont to do. With Christian McCaffrey down, with David Montgomery down, picking up Cordero Patterson, trading for Deebo Samuel, picking up Khalil Herbert, the Kyle Pitts draft pick, which I panned at the time, and then trading away Travis Kelce and trusting in Kyle Pitts, which clearly was the right move. I think all those moves in the face of what were a lot of injuries and a lot of turmoil and turnover on his roster, he ended up with a team that's 5-3 that I believe is like third in points or somewhere around there, and is really sitting pretty for the playoff picture to come.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna agree with you. I don't think there's anything.
He's a little bit lower in points than I thought, but yes.
I think Josh has gone out and got it done and manufactured wins when he's needed to put himself in a position of 5-3, and kept his total points up. And so even if you end up the division winner, which there's a lot of season left, a lot behind us too, but a lot of season left. I think we're gonna see Josh, up there in the, possibly the 2 or 3 seed, if not the 1 seed, based on points for. And so,
Agreed.
He's made that push, and you and him have had some of the most points scored against. And so it's going to be interesting to see, if Josh, when, let's just say it, when, your division starts to play the Ditka division, is Josh going to be able to rattle off some of these wins to push that lead out even further, to push his lead, push you and see where he gets. And so, we've seen Fitz, we've seen Steve make some great moves early and recently trading. I would expect Josh to also make some moves.
Yep.
based on his history there. So it's going to be an interesting next week.
I mean, that part of the back end of the schedule, Josh and I have essentially the same back end of the schedule. We play the Ditka Division, as you said. We play really what are essentially we play, all bad teams except for we play each other.
Yeah, you're playing there. You're playing everyone with a losing record except for Josh.
Yeah.
Go back to Josh.
And Josh he's doing the same thing. He's playing everybody with a losing record except for me. And so it's going to be that week 11 game, I think, is going to be a big one. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. But with that said, put the midseason awards to rest. Couple quick things before we go, because we're an hour already, over an hour. First, next week is a weekly prize. You want to tell us what the weekly prize is, John?
Oh boy, I would love to. We're headed down to NOLA. We are going to take a stroll along Bourbon Street, and the person whose team scores the most TDs is going to win $25. So your team that scores most TDs along Bourbon Street is going to win $25.
Indeed, this is the most TDs award for our fourth weekly prize. So we'll add up those TDs at the end of next week and see who's got the biggest collection of TDs. The last thing I just want to touch on, interesting matchup I think this week, you versus Sullivan. In kind of, I think, a battle for the trade deadline and what might be a battle for relevancy, although it may prove to be too late for both of you. But I think Sullivan's got an interesting case to be made given his division with Alec. You've got Derrick Henry going down. Does that provide him with some opening to start to work his way towards a wild card slot? Maybe it does, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Having both the Alpha Peter and Josh at 5 and 3, and then Steve at 4 and 4, those three ahead of both Sullivan and I vying for wildcard spots, makes it very difficult. I mean, essentially, it's going to need to be a run the table situation. And is either of our team in position to do such a thing? Possibly. We've both had some tough injuries, but we're, from what I understand, at least I am slated to get some players back. And I think Sullivan was with Saquon Barkley, but him having COVID now could really push that out. And so,
well, you and Pete play the exact same schedule the rest of the way, with the only exception being in week 14. Yep, you play me and Pete plays Josh.
You're gonna rest your guys if you've clinched at that point?
I am not.
Okay.
We play all the way through.
You should consider resting your players,
All right. I'll take that into consideration. Okay. That has been the RTF show for this week. Thank you to Brother John. Good job.
It's been fun.
And we will be back next week, hopefully with a guest. It'd be great to get a guest on here. Alec. It'd be great to get a guest on here.
Kelly.
Or
Steve.
Or anybody else that wants to join us.
Yep.
But till then, it's been great talking to y'all. See ya.
SmackDown!